Today, we kick off a brand new feature here on the Locked On Cougars podcast, your daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. I'm Jake Hatch, and what we are going to be doing is ranking all 100 seasons of BYU football from 100 to 1 ahead of BYU beginning training camp later this summer. Today, we talk about season number 100, the absolute worst in BYU football history, and when it's the only winless team in program history, you can't do anything worse than that, and that's the 1949 BYU Cougars. The Cougars were among the worst ever at the Power 4 level. Quite literally, if you look at the rankings, it's one of the worst seasons by a current Power 4 program. If you go by SRS Matrix, which is a simple rating system that College Football Reference utilizes. 1949's SRS number is more than 4 points worse than the second worst season in BYU football history, just for some comparison's sake. Now, the preseason media guide for this team set the stage for it, saying, quote, "The immediate outlook for the Cougars is not bright. Such a confession from the Provo camp will not be greeted by delight by Brigham Young's fighting alumni, but to say anything else would most certainly be hypocritical," unquote. And how true they were, setting the stage for that. It was the first year of 31-year-old Charles, a.k.a. Chick Atkinson's tenure as BYU football head coach, and he was handed a roster taking over for the great Eddie Kimball that was, simply put, lacking. BYU went 0-11 on the year, finishing dead last in the Skyline Six Conference, and was outscored by an average of 24.3 points per game. The closest the Cougars came to winning that season was a 16-14 loss on Senior Day of what was then Colorado A&M. You know it today as Colorado State. Players of note from that ill-fated outfit, there were still standouts despite the losses. Dick Hill, Dave Lindstrom, and Rex Berry, who would later go on to be drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in the NFL. Of the 1949 squad, Berry was quoted as saying, quote, "We were undefeated. We didn't defeat anyone," unquote. Also a freshman on that team was Paul Mendenhall, the father of future BYU football coach Bronco Mendenhall. He would go on to have a pretty strong career in his own right. But check back tomorrow for season number 99. We make incremental progress. Actually, if you look at that SRS number, pretty monumental progress to the next worst season in BYU football history when we check in on the first ever campaign for the BYU Cougars. For more information like this and a lot more fun talking all things BYU football and beyond, make sure you check out Locked On Cougars wherever you get your podcasts. Also available here on YouTube.